They buried my cat alive. I buried their secrets. My cat Leo wasn't just a pet. He was the quiet witness to my life, the soft purr against my chest on lonely nights. He was my family. The day I came home to an empty apartment, annoying dread began to twist in my stomach. I searched everywhere, calling his name until my voice was raw. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, who found him. Or rather, who found the disturbed patch of earth in her pristine flower bed, right under my window. She gave me a look of cold, faint sympathy and said, "Oh dear. Looks like some poor animal didn't make it." But I knew. I saw the faint outline of my welcome mat's home lettering pressed into the soil. Someone had used it to carry him. And there was only one other person with a key to my apartment, my fiancé Mark and his so-called best friends, Tom and Jessica. They'd always joked about Leo, calling him my furry little shadow, their smiles never quite reaching their eyes. The police called it a tragic accident. An animal got out, they said, nothing they could do. But I saw the smirks they exchanged behind the officer's back. They thought they had gotten away with it. They thought I was just a grieving girl who would cry and move on. They didn't know I had a secret of my own. For the past year, I've been helping Mark with his side business, a high-stakes, off-the-books investment group he ran with Tom and Jessica. I managed the accounts, the transfers, the encrypted ledgers. I saw everything. The offshore accounts, the dummy corporations, the names of powerful people who thought their money was safely hidden. They trusted me because they saw me as Mark's quiet, unassuming girlfriend. The harmless girl who loved her cat. They had no idea I'd made a complete backup of every single transaction, every illegal deal, every dirty secret they ever typed. It was my insurance policy, a little voice telling me something was off. Now it was my weapon. Grief is a funny thing. It hollows you out, but it can also fill you with a clarity as sharp as broken glass. For a week I played the part of the devastated fiancé. I let Mark hold me while I cried, all the while feeling the cold weight of the flash drive in my pocket. He'd murmur comforting words, telling me we could get another cat, as if Leo was a replaceable object. Tom and Jessica would bring over casseroles, their faces masks of concern. They'd talk about how fragile life is, their hypocrisy so thick I could almost taste it. "We're so sorry for your loss, honey," Jessica would say, patting my hand. Leo was a special cat. The rage burned in my chest, a cold, controlled fire. Special enough for you to bury him alive. I waited. I let them get comfortable in their cruelty. I listened as they planned a celebratory weekend trip to a luxury resort, using the profits from their latest shady deal. "A little getaway to cheer you up," Mark said, oblivious. The night before they were scheduled to leave, I put my plan into motion. It started with a single anonymous email. The recipient was a notoriously ruthless journalist I knew had been trying to expose one of the powerful men on Mark's client list for years. The subject line was simple: "Everything you're looking for." Attached was a single encrypted file with a note: "The password will be released publicly in 72 hours. This is your head start." Next, I sent a carefully curated package to the Federal Tax Agency. It contained printouts of offshore account numbers and a detailed breakdown of an undeclared multi-million-dollar fund. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. The numbers spoke for themselves. The final piece was for the other investors, the sharks who swam in the same murky waters as Mark, Tom, and Jessica. I created a dozen anonymous social media accounts and began drip-feeding information into their private online forums. A hint about a security breach. A screenshot of a redacted transaction. A whisper that someone on the inside had turned. I didn't name names. I just planted the seeds of paranoia and watched them sprout. I knew they would turn on each other like wolves. Their entire enterprise was built on a fragile foundation of greed and mistrust. All it needed was a little push. I packed a single bag. In it was my laptop, the original flash drive, and a small framed photo of Leo, his green eyes bright and curious. I left my engagement ring on the kitchen counter, right next to a printed out receipt for a bag of quick-set concrete I seen in Tom's trunk a week ago. A little goodbye present. Then I walked out of the apartment and never looked back. The news broke while I was on a bus heading west, watching the city lights disappear in the rearview mirror. The journalist had published his expose, a front-page bombshell that sent shockwaves through the financial world. Warrants were issued. Assets were frozen. Mark, Tom, and Jessica were apprehended at the airport, their resort vacation turning into a one-way trip to a federal holding cell. Their faces on the news were a beautiful collage of shock and betrayal. They were looking at each other, the accusation clear in their eyes. Who talked? Who broke the code of silence? They would never know it was the quiet girl whose world they had shattered over something as petty as a cat they didn't like. They had buried Leo, my one true family. So I buried their entire world. I buried their money, their reputations, and their futures so deep that no one would ever be able to dig them out. Somewhere out there, they are sitting in a cell, pointing fingers and tearing each other apart, trying to figure out who betrayed them. They'll never suspect me. After all, I'm just a heartbroken girl grieving her lost pet. But every time I look at Leo's picture, I know the truth. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. And it was served cold.